like to call the regular meeting of the Downtown Development Authority Board. It's Tuesday, January 21st, 2025, and it is 6:38 p.m. Could I have a roll call and determination of quorum, please?
Yes, Lloyd Coe. Teresa Rett.
Here.
Elena Campbell.
Here.
Sam Caruso.
Here.
Debbie Burgess.
Here?
Matt Shell.
Here.
Hank Laurent.
Here.
Sally Medina.
Here.
Chris Barnett. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just if you could note for the record that Mr. Barnett's meeting as the supervisor of the township was postponed because of the holiday, so that his absence tonight is caused by his duty.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, approval of minutes. A, approval of DDA special meeting minutes of December 2nd, 2024, page 3.
Motion to approve DDA Board Special Meeting Minutes of December 2nd, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number B, approval of DDA informational meeting minutes of December 17th, 2024, page 6.
Motion to approve DDA Board Informational Meeting Minutes of December 17th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number C, approval of DDA regular meeting minutes of December 17th, 2024, page 7.
Motion to approve DDA Board Regular Meeting Minutes of December 17th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, approval of agenda.
Motion to approve agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5, call to the public. The DDA welcomes comments related to the work and spirit of the DDA on non-agenda items. Each person wishing to address the DDA board should be afforded an opportunity to do so. When recognized, give your name and address and direct your comments to the chair. Comments on the agenda items may be allowed upon the calling of the item. Comments are limited to 3 minutes or as allowed by the board chair. Moving on to item number 6, consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are approved by one vote. A, financial reports, page 22. B, approve and authorize additional work, lumberyard, page 26.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 7, financial matters. A, bill approval, page 29. Roll call, please.
Motion to approve disbursements in the amount of $51,957.67 for December 2024.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. Teresa Rett.
Yes.
Elena Campbell.
Yes.
Sam Caruso.
Yes.
Debbie Burgess.
Yes.
Matt Shell.
Yes.
Hank Laurent.
Yes.
Sally Medina.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Moving on to item number 8, new and old business. Number A, downtown snow removal discussion options, beginning page 36.
Madam Chair, this is a matter that has been before the board. In November, we brought a proposal to rework the original contract for snowplow services. There had been a contract in 2020. Prior to that, there had been agreements between the DDA and the village for certain snow removal efforts. If you go back over the history, some years were for just picking up the snow. When John Ranville was in charge of the DPW, that was more of a general service that the DPW just did. It was part of their basic services. At some years it was, no, we need to pay for that. There's not real clear as to how that all came together from a legal standpoint. Regardless, in November we kind of went through the whole idea of, well, we'll have a new contract really to force two things. One is to continue the dedication of DDA to keeping the immediate downtown clear of snow and ice so that we're a more welcoming community for our merchants and our vendors and our restaurants. And two is to commence off an opportunity to be looking at charging the DPW more on a per event basis. We acknowledged at that time we would submit that to the village, through the village manager to Mr. Sanchez, because he had presented that the numbers were still based that we were using from 2020. And we acknowledged that night on the record, it was fair for him to assess whether they were able to still do that. What's in your packet tonight is a memo that outlines exactly what I just said, and then talks to the approach of how we might go about this task of continuing snow removal and salting services. On the second page of the memo, which is page 36 of your packet, we did get outside quotes, U.S. Lawn and Snow, Arrowhead Hardscapes. We did late yesterday from Steve Stoll, who's a longtime member of our community. High Hill Lawn Services likewise submitted a quote, and we included the updated number from the Lake Orion DPW. To fill in where High Hill is on this list from the memo, their all-in cost for removal of the snow would be $1,970. That would include all the salting as well. So here, what's really before you is this. If you do have your packet, and the thing is to look at page 37. This is the map that we use to get quotes. It has 3 parking areas that we've identified in little handwritten green hashes, and it's got multiple sidewalks that are identified in red. This sidewalk lineal footage is greater than what was used for the map in 2020, the last time we contracted with the village. Mr. Sanchez based his quote off of the original map and not this specific updated map. Now, how does that affect things? Well, if we break it down in price, and Mr. Sanchez holds that his price, including, and essentially what's happened is the north side behind 313 Pizza along Shadball Street and around Anderson Street, those sidewalks are additional, as is going south on Anderson, the sidewalk that goes down Anderson and across Front Street. For whatever reason, not all of that was included 5 years ago. If we add in that lineal footage, the DPW cost would be about $1,900 per event to do that. So what would we get for this service? Now, I say that not just from DPW, but from any of these entities. We would presumably go back to a contractor, or the DPW would come in on an event and they would clear all the snow off the sidewalks and salt everything, and then they would clear those 3 parking areas. The other parking areas, like the one behind 313, is a public lot. It's not a DDA based lot, so the DPW is charged with clearing and salting that lot. These are the 3 that identified that would have DDA responsibility. They would come in and they would clear the snow. Each of the companies were bid on anything 2 inches or more, which is what the ordinance calls for, as well as our prior contract. And so you see we're all very similar, meaning these are not final negotiated numbers. These are your executive director trying to get companies in the middle of a season to be able to absorb this work. Can you start it? Do you have the equipment to start it? And these are the companies that would. As an example of some differences between the DPW and outside, High Hill Lawn Services, Steve made it very specific that his service, I confirmed this with Arrowhead as well, would go from on the sidewalk, we could go all the way to the curb edge. Currently, the DPW pushes with their equipment. If you recall, if you've been here any time in the winter where there's snow, there's always a foot or so of snow that accumulates from both the plowing and from the sidewalk. And if we get any kind of heavy snow, there's no ability on a passenger side of a vehicle to exit onto the curb. High Hill has said that their cost, they would clear all of that. So what does that mean for us? Well, where do they put the snow? I can't tell you. They're yet to be decided. If we got an 8 or 12-inch snow event, it's a lot of snow to get rid of. We don't have a cost contract with the DPW because before it was just kind of handled. We budgeted $12,000 in the past. The cost was the DPW would do sidewalks and snow removal, and they just took the money, which is fine. Last year, I think we had 2 snow events where they would have actually been paid. So that cost the DDA the full budget last year of $12,000. This year, we're going to have way more than 2, even from now going forward, just the way the winter's going. So I'm rambling a little bit, but just so you understand the scope of it. So here's the first question I would have for the board tonight, why I titled this work session is Discussion and Options, not just approve a contract. And we don't have to do it tonight, but we do have to do it at some point soon. My feeling is we need to revisit the question of why is the DDA getting rid of snow on sidewalks and parking lots. It's a broader question. The complaints that we're absorbing from the community are from, and I don't mind saying it publicly, the Mosheri property is not getting, those sidewalks are not getting treated at all on any of the Mosheri developments. In front of Jeff Schmidt's property by the Legion, and particularly his own property between the Legion property and Bitter Tom's is not getting cleaned or treated at all.
He's cleaned that up, I just walked it.
Did he? Good, because we've been after him a little bit. There's an empty lot between Motor City Granite and the Irish Tavern that has a for sale sign on it. It's owned by a local group of people that hasn't been touched this winter. I could go on. The majority of it is not just in the downtown of where our public that are walking, as we talked about in our goal setting session, how do we get more people safely to the downtown? They seem to be complaining about the corridor on M24. They seem to be complaining about these little gaps. There's a variety of ways we can attack that. We can take a more aggressive communication approach to chase those people down and get them complying with the ordinance, which we have. It has resulted. When this first started as a discussion 6-7 weeks ago, we did have communication go out, and several of the businesses started, we didn't realize. They've added that to their other snowplow, Jeff Schmidt's being one of them. He's added that to his crew. We could approach this simply as a broader communication effort that would be helping comply with the ordinance. Have the DDA, much like we did on the holiday yesterday and on Sunday. Your director went to our friends at the Ace Hardware, saw that there were substantial, very dangerous icy spots, things like our Flint Street alleyway and the walk that goes outside of that, some other places. We went and we spot salted in several areas. Maybe the DDA just takes on that role, that we take on a more day-to-day emergency basis of spot salting. But the first question I have for the board, and Madam Chair, I would encourage you to open up to any thoughts or discussion, is do we want to be in the snow plowing business? Because right now we're not. We're not paying the DPW. The DPW is doing the intersection where the brick pavers are in front of our office. They are not doing in front of the lumberyard, surprisingly, even though it's public property. They're doing in front of the fire station. They're doing the sidewalks by the lots, like the parking lot by your business. I know, Ms. Campbell, it's closed right now, but you're there a lot. They are doing that area, but it's very selective to public facilities. Right now, the DDA is not in the snow removal business, and we're having a hard winter. We're not getting a ton of snow, but we're getting snow every day. So that's the first question, is whether we want to be in the business. And if the decision is yes, we want to be in the business, the second question would be, what's the approach of how we want to be in that business as far as negotiating, very quickly negotiating a final price with one of these entities. So there's my long-winded presentation to you. I said I was going to be short tonight, but this is a very important issue.
So can we open it up for discussion now?
So,
Dr. Sam?
so I'm confused because this map shows most of these streets that are going to be plowed by the village are being serviced by the business owners. I own my own lot.
Yeah, I have
We're required to plow our own sidewalks. So why are we paying somebody to do sidewalks that are already being done? I don't know why that's
That was my question too.
90% of.
I thought the business owners had to clear in
Yeah.
front of their business.
So if I could just answer questions, Madam Chair, I know You and I are both very Robert's Rules procedure, but if I could just answer the question. So it looks like, and in speaking to those that came before Janet and I, that the types of years that we're having now, and particularly the types of years where there's heavier snow, that there was a ask in the preservation of our streetscape and other things if we could take it on. So much so to the point that they bought new equipment. So, Madam President, your DPW several years ago bought a piece of equipment to do this.
Yeah.
So at some point in the past, there was an idea of this was in the best interest of the downtown. Why we did it then, my imagination is we didn't have a lumberyard project. We had just finished the sagebrush lot, as I call it, on Front Street, that when Dee had donated that property, we built that out. It was done. I almost feel like we were looking for a reason to use budget to do something good for our downtown community, which is good. I don't think there was a functional legal purpose for it, Mr. Caruso, because there's an ordinance in place.
Yeah, as I consider the snow plowing, discussion, when I look at this map, I think historically it was done because to support business owners, to create a walkable place downtown. But you're right, and that business owners are required to shovel in front of their businesses, just like I as a resident am required to shovel in front of my home. And when I look at this map, if I was a business, say on M24, that is in the DDA district, I might say, well, you're doing all of those on Flint and Broadway. I want a piece of the action too. So unless we are willing to do the sidewalks for, say, the entire DDA district, I don't think we can say, we're going to do here, and we're going to do here, and we're going to do here. If they are, DDA properties or public properties, I think there can be a discussion on some of those. But in terms of where there's already a responsibility to do that, I don't think we should be, because we can't do that fairly for everybody in the district. Because then it just becomes, well, are they a favorite? It comes into the business of, are we playing favorites? How are we justifying who gets the snow removal, who does not? And that can get really dicey in doing that. And I think also just personally, even if the majority disagreed with me, and that's fine, and said, no, we still want to do this, I wouldn't be comfortable approving any type of contract today because I don't have the High Hill one in front of me. We don't have one. We don't have one from the DPW based on the same map as all the others. And so, in my thoughts, I just don't think it's the best move to go forward because we cannot uniformly fairly do that across the entire DDA district and not leave somebody out.
I have several questions.
Hi. Okay.
Matt, you're saying the
Yeah.
red is what the village currently does?
So,
The red lines?
so it's a little different than that, Mr. Lorette. So the way it used to be done is Wes's group had the more traditional snow plow things.
Two-stage mower, snowblower.
Whatever they call
Yeah,
those
yeah.
things, where you walk behind them and the thing rotates and the snow flies in. And then at some point, there was a decision that, to Ms. Rutt's point, that if we're going to be doing that anywhere, we need to do it everywhere. And so there's maps out there that show lines everywhere. And then there's maps that show green lines, which are essentially equivalent to these red lines. And I apologize, two different colors, but I'm talking about that the DDA would pay towards the removal of this downtown area. But if you look at the history of it, it looked like at some point, long prior to us, somebody decided that the village should be removing snow, and they were doing that. And then they realized, well, we can't have these people, we need to have a piece of equipment, so the DDA contributed to buy the equipment, $48,000 or whatever it was, and that's when the decision was made, well, the DDA should pay for part of this. So the part that I've got marked in red is what in the last 4 years has been done from the DDA's payment standpoint. I don't recall, because I don't live downtown, I don't recall if any of it ever got done. I just don't know. I mean, I really don't know.
I live downtown, I walk downtown. I've seen the snow removal. I mean, they really, at several times, they've used some machine to clean off all of 24 from Flint Street, and I think it goes all the way down.
Yep.
Now, coming today, it didn't look like they've been there. But in the past, I've seen them. I've also seen them go all the way to Meeks Park, and then do Meeks Park and go over the bridge.
Yep.
So, I think we need all the maps on, I mean, what is the DDA responsibility? And on top of that, what is the village doing? Because apparently they're doing more than just what we're talking about here, right?
I mean, the village has always done public property, you know, things like Meeks Park, that is a public park. And so, yes to that, you know, sidewalks in front of Village Hall, public, you know, stuff that the village is responsible for. So the village will continue to do that, but the expanded version was in front of businesses to take burden off business owners. It was one of the things that the DDA, I think, historically did, because not every business is open every day, not every business owner lives in Lake Orion. And so I think that is probably where that discussion started from, but the village will still continue to do village public things. Now, if we decide that, no, we're not going to do business, you know, corner, things like that, business sidewalks anymore, there still might need to be a discussion with the village on what public properties, you know, are there public properties that the DDA is going to contribute towards? I mean, think about the lumberyard sidewalk. That was a DDA purchase. Now, is that on the village to plow that because the DDA chose to purchase that? I would,
I don't know if they were doing it before.
right. I would
know
say that's
they
probably
do the other side of the street,
DDA.
All the way from Flint, it's all the way down. I've seen them machine them all the
Yeah,
time.
so those are the conversations that would have to happen if we choose not to go forward with this whole map where a business owner is responsible or a private property owner is responsible for their sidewalk. I think that's a separate conversation then that would happen with the village.
Is there snow removal budget in the village budget that is separate from the downtown area? I mean, there has to be, because
For-
you're doing streets and stuff
For
like that.
streets, yes, so the village snow plowing, we get money for Act 51 money for our major and local streets. There's different amounts for major and local streets, and that is the money that is used for snow removal. That is the budget that DPW charges to for snow removal of streets, are the major and local street funds that we get Act 51 money from the state.
All right, so that's in the budget already, and this is over and above.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So previous years, when the property owners or business owners were called upon to say that if you have 2 inches of snow or more, you need to remove it from your sidewalks, which are in front of your stores. Then was the issue, well, where are we going to put the snow? So then you're going to put the snow in the road so that the sidewalk is clear, because it isn't. Some people had visitors come to them and say, you're not clearing your sidewalks because the brick area in front of your sidewalk had snow. So then it was, we don't want you to put the snow in the road, because if you put the snow in the road, then the cars can't park there. And then DPW can't plow, obviously, where people would park their cars. So it's been like an evolution of just do the sidewalks in front of the store. No, now you have to do the bricks in front of the sidewalks. Then, no, you can't put it in the road. And then, well, you push it down towards the corners. Well, then you can't push it down then towards the corners, because then that affected the street crossings. And then we had the woman who fell and broke her ankle, and then it was, well, whose responsibility is it to make sure that, well, that took place where somebody was crossing the street, well, there was a pile of snow there. Well, how did that snow get there? Well, where did you want the business owner to put this snow? So it wasn't just one conversation. It was multiple winters, multiple situations, nobody giving clear direction as to what was to happen with and during those months, we had a lot of snow during that time. Even DPW had snow piled way up and was carting it off to the cemetery and like all kinds of crazy stuff. So nobody gave clear direction at that point. What were all the business owners supposed to do with the snow in front of their stores? So there's been a lot of confusion over the years, and then the threat with, well, I'm going to sue you, you didn't clear the sidewalks, the snow's piled up at the walk cross, you know, all of these kinds of things. So I can't really say that, you know, how did the DDA get in the snow business? I think it was just an accumulation of situations and circumstances and additional snow and people just trying to figure out how do we take care of this and make sure that our sidewalks are safe. And at that point, they weren't. You know, I mean, you can only go out there so much and salt so much, and then if it freezes, it becomes ice, and you go back out with the salt, and it freezes and becomes, you know, it's like, so I think we need some serious definitions of what, where, and how, and whom.
The one thing I wanted to add when it comes to the other businesses is that I think that one of the biggest differences between those businesses and the downtown businesses is that there's a lot more foot traffic downtown. So when you're thinking about it from a safety perspective, of course not that somebody, you know, it's that they should be more safe walking downtown. I just think there's more people that are walking downtown. So being somebody who has a business that we shovel our own business, it's not even about that. I'm thinking about being that person that's having to walk from business to business if I'm parking downtown. So I do think that we should consider the fact that there's a lot more foot traffic downtown.
That's a good point.
When we start doing it and we're not obligated to do so, if somebody does a bad job and then somebody gets hurt, are we opening ourselves up to liability that wouldn't otherwise be?
Well, it's a good and important question. I mean, the law would indicate we are a government agency, as our village manager, you know, continuously points out, that we are our own separate public body, but a public body. So we're protected by the same rules of open and obvious and other Supreme Court decisions over the last 15, 20 years that have really made it very difficult for a public agency to be sued. Now, does that mean that we wouldn't get drawn in this hybrid condition, Matt? I mean, I'm not a litigator anymore, but you can bet yourself if I was that there would be a way that we would wind into this. It's not good from that standpoint all the way around. Now, the only distinction would be is that we would require insurance and bonding, full liability of any of the entities doing it. We do have the protections of the ordinance. That really defaults to the ordinance first. I mean, if the property's not in compliance with an ordinance, then that's where the first layer of liability comes. But you can never be fully clear of it. And your explanation, Madam Chair, of like how it came to be makes complete sense to me, and I think to both of us, that this was it just needs to get fixed kind of moment at some point in the past, and the DDA stepped in with, quite frankly, very supportive help of the village. The former village manager, from what I understand, really kind of stepped in and said, this is how we're going to do it. That's why, Mr. Laurent, there's multiple maps. They're not like multiple in the sense that they're all different. They're like an accumulation. So where that road, you know, those areas were pushed before, that matches the history of this, is the way it's been explained to us, and certainly our records show, that we basically took on here's some extra money to help the cost of it all. I think at this point that the budgetary costs from both organizations are such that it's hard for the DPW to say we're going to push all these sidewalks in the whole area that Joe Young, the former village manager, really prescribed when this deal was struck. So that leads us to this point of, well, do we take that over? If we were to take over everything, my guesstimation in talking to Steve Stoll at High Hill and the folks at Arrowhead and US Snow, these are people that I know and have worked with in the past. They're not close friends or anything. I just know them and I trust their companies. To do everything would be, on a seasonal basis, maybe $80,000, $85,000 to do everything. From a private perspective, that's adding in a nice 25% upside, which matches Mr. Sanchez's numbers. He's like, if the DDA wants us to do everything, it's going to be 48 to 58,000. That makes sense because the private guys are at 80. So that makes sense. I personally think, Mr. Caruso, that we've got significantly important things that we could be passing our budget on. Even if we were to go rationally, the DPW would be at about $2,000 a push, just like two of these companies are. And so I know that US Lawn and Snow is going to be out, they're going to be too high. Arrowhead Landscapes and High Hill would likely say, we'll be all in to do everything for $2,000 for the event and make sure it's done right. All the snow, would make sure it's done right. If we have 10 events, it's 20 grand. That's half a season. If we were to look at this long term, we should expect that we would spend $50,000 next year to do this, if we're going to commit to it. If I were to make a recommendation, we could have a 20-hour-a-week part-time maintenance person on staff for 52 weeks a year with certain spot equipment, including salting equipment and other things that we could do more in concert with the DPW, maintain some of our smaller budget, pay-as-you-go for large snow events, so we would negotiate that with our Good Village partners. And then Janet and I would have somebody that could carry flowers in the spring and hang banners in the summer. It is a much wiser spending of $50,000 than we would on my friend Steve Stoll at High Hill. I put a recommendation here just to use the DPW, but after significant thought and carrying salt around all day yesterday, sorry, I just think it's maybe better if we reanalyze it and we give a stronger communication to our partners in the business community everywhere that for this year, we really want to support them if they need referrals, if they need us to help them find resources, if we can do temporary things, and that we would also do like 3 immediate things, which doesn't require your approval. Janet and I can do this. We should buy 10 compatible decorative salt barrels to put throughout the downtown community with easy access to certain materials. That we should invest in a $300 salt spreader that I can get at the Home Depot, that any of us could use. Even when Matt's ready to do some exercise, Mr. Shell could come and say, yeah, let me do this real quick, it doesn't take long. I think that should be our temporary solution. We should ask our Madam President to include this discussion in the discussions that are about to come with determining how we more collaboratively break down the budget side of working together, and we punt this to live and fight another day. That's my recommendation, but I don't know how to encapsulate that into yours.
I have a clarifying question and then something else. So the clarifying question is, so the parking lot that's in green at Anderson in front, that's the Old Whiskey's parking lot.
Old Whiskey's parking.
Do we own that? Is that a DDA parking lot?
It's been told to me that the DDA has responsibility over that lot, the Slater Street lot, and the lot across from us on Broadway, the half lot that we lease from the TARS.
Right,
It's a
we
public
lease
lot.
the lot across from the DDA office. And
Right.
we, I guess, purchased and then gravelled the Slater Street lot. But why would we, what was the explanation for why we're responsible for the Anderson in front lot? That was given to the village, correct? Okay. It's
Yeah,
a
I don't
question
have an
for
answer
somebody
that.
else?
Yeah.
I can't confirm or deny. I don't know the agreement on that.
Okay. That, I think we definitely need some clarification on, no matter what direction we go in. But second, I like the idea of, if that's how much it's going to cost, we hire somebody
That's right.
that's on our staff that we have for these summer things that need to be done. We got to hire somebody every summer to water the flowers and do all of that sort of thing. It makes more sense to me than spending $80,000 just for snow removal.
And I think if we
I don't-
have true clarification for business owners and property owners, what it actually means, where you start, where you end, clearing your snow,
And where to put it.
and where, yes, and where to put it, I think that's going to be very helpful. Communication is everything, in my opinion. So, Teresa?
And
Yeah.
the salt things.
Yeah, I like the idea of the salt things. I think my only other question is, what would the response be if a resident who lives, a half block away from these red streets says, well, yeah, it's walkable, And people walk down my street all the time to get into downtown, and I'm in the DDA district, and I'm required to shovel my sidewalk too. Well, can the DDA take care of my sidewalk? Because people use this as an avenue to get downtown all the time, and it's a walkable space. So I think we have to be really careful there, because I very much understand, like, it's a walkable space, all the businesses downtown, we want it to be a safe space and a welcoming space for people to come. But again, it's that slippery slope of, well, I live a half block away, people are walking around, walking all the time to get downtown. So why don't you shovel mine too? Because I'm in the DD
But
district.
I think that's what we're saying
Yeah.
right now, is that it's the property owners,
Yeah.
the business owners' responsibility for this season to clear. And I love the idea, though, about putting out, I don't care if it's decorative or the same color, but some kind of a container that, whereas either salt or sand is available. And if need be, I mean, we could be a good Samaritan and open the thing and throw some sand or salt out if we see.
I'm just thinking if we hire someone who, and say, we make that as part of their job description, oh, you're going to shovel the sidewalks downtown. Well, can you come shovel mine too? That kind of thing.
Well,
I still think that the business owners are responsible to do their own.
Yeah.
I've been here for 20, I've been downtown for 20-something years. I've had my snow plowed for 20-something years. I don't know why this is even an issue for business owners. Because there are some lots that business owners that don't plow their lots, like between the insurance company and the coffee shop. That's never plowed. I don't know who owns that property, but that guy never does the snow. I'll bring my shovel, I'll do it myself if I have to. It's never done there in 20 years.
but what we don't want, though,
But we want to have
is
it done.
we don't want our executive or assistant executive
No,
director
that's not-
out there
Not
throwing
your job.
salt down and running a spreader and stuff. I don't know what the answer is, Teresa. I mean, there's always going to be somebody that's going to, we've been doing this for years, for 10 years I've been doing this, and people still have a different idea or want to spin the story or have an opinion on it. But I'm just saying that if we're going to spend $80,000 or $50,000, whatever, my goodness, we could hire somebody to do a lot of things that quite honestly need to be done that isn't being taken care of. I'm just saying, and I'm going to stand up for my director and assistant director, that you guys are not going to take on another job
No.
of going outside with the salt spreader and salt, and I know you have been, or getting the ladder out in the summertime and watering the flowers. I mean, I know we all do what we have to do, but I'm just saying, at some point, it's got to stop. We need you to do what we've hired you to do, and if that means we have to put up with people being upset with how we're doing some of the things, they're always upset anyways. I can never please anybody. I mean, you know, it doesn't matter if on a volunteer basis, there's still going to be complaints. But I think we have to be careful that we cannot overload you with all this. I appreciate your concern. I appreciate all of that. But there has to be a better answer than you guys saying, well, if we have to, we'll just go out there if it's an emergency or whatever. That's not the answer. It can't be.
The village has a plan. How do we fit into the village's plan? And does that work? I don't know. This map doesn't do that for me. But there is a big snow plan for the whole village, for all of downtown, everywhere. How do we fit in and what do you need from us? And if we had that conversation.
I guess I'm not sure entirely what you're asking. Yes, there is a plan for like which streets get plowed first, which streets get, major, secondary, tertiary streets, sidewalks that the village is responsible for. Yes, there is a plan on that. Where this fits, I think, is an ongoing discussion. How is it prioritized? I think we prioritize the major streets first, so it's usually one person then is dedicated to this while everybody else is out plowing. That is the way it has structured in the past. If I'm remembering correctly, they have a crew that's out on streets, and then they have somebody who's dedicated with whatever equipment it was that goes and does this. That is how this has fit into the plan. But it doesn't have to fit that way if we choose not to utilize services.
I guess
Yeah.
the question I would have is, if I talk to Wes, what would Wes say, this is what we need from you and this is the best spend?
The best spend?
Yeah, for your money. I mean, we want you to do this, this, and this. This is what we're really hoping that you can do. We can handle the rest of it. And I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure you.
I think it'd be defining what it is actually that you want, and then saying, here, Wes, this is what we actually want, we can handle the rest. But that would have to be defined here before.
If I could, Mayor, so not for tonight to do it, but the packet, Mr. Lawrence, I would encourage all of you, starting at page 53 is Mr. Sanchez's current breakdown of some of the core services. So this is like all in about $70,000 worth of DPW-related services. I think it gets back, Madam Chair, to, you know, we expressed to the village manager today in our weekly call that we had such positive expressions and work in our training sessions, in our board work sessions, and really focused on let's collaboratively figure out who's doing what and who's responsible. I think that, Mr. Lawrence, that's what you're driving at, is like, well, who's responsible for what?
Yeah.
To Mr. Sanchez's defense, he's been given.
I'm not attacking him.
No, I know.
No,
but
no, we don't.
yeah, we're not
see it that
attacking,
way.
but just to hit, like, if he was here, what would he say? He would say, well, the DPW's, you know, we're going to do everything for the best interest of our community. It comes down to the fact that he has to account for the time for his people. And so Ms. Rudd has a responsibility at her council to say, are your time law, are we paying these people? She has the same pressure that we have. And so Mr. Sanchez is, okay, I've got to allocate all of that time. Matt, how much are you guys going to reimburse my budget for this? And that's the impasse, because for us, it's, well, okay, we never could. That's why there was a deal cut many years ago to say, well, this is what, you know, we could throw some dollars to help support it. But now it's just getting a little bit too out of whack. Payrolls are going up and everything, inflation, and we're in tough times in Michigan right now. I mean, this is a very high inflationary state. So part of the cost that's before you, I'll be honest with you, it wouldn't be so expensive if we just need the snow shoveled. Those numbers are pretty reasonable. We can take that. I could pay people all day long to shovel our snow. It's the salt. So like High Hill, $600 to get all the snow gone. No, but it's almost $1,000 to salt it, the sidewalks. So that's why it's, you know, $1,700 just to do snow removal of a couple inches and salting, and then you say, well, add in the parking lots, now we're at $2,000, right? So I think he would say there's certain things that he's presented with that are DDA-related properties. We lease the tar lot across from us. That's a DDA lot. If we want to hire them to plow the lot, we should pay the cost of that to his people. I think we all agree with that. So what it comes down to is, Madam President, we have to find a way to expedite the discussion that's very open and honest of who the heck is responsible for what in this town. And that's what it'll come down to, because what's going to end up, Hank, is the street, the sidewalk out on the other side of M24 is not going to get shoveled. Because Wes's group can't absorb the cost of it anymore, and we don't want to take it out. That's where we're at.
But I think that's already in the plan.
No.
Well, somebody's shoveling it.
So I think it would be helpful if we had one map,
Yes.
and maybe we could ask the DPW, take your marker and color in everything that you are responsible to plow, to salt, to shovel. And don't write the name of it, I mean, actually color it. And then we could look and see all of the area that is not being colored. And then we say, okay, what does the DDA own? If we own it, then we have a responsibility, or if we lease it, we have a responsibility to care for it. So then that becomes our color on the map. And then we see all the white areas that's owned by business owners or property owner, I mean, whatever. And then look on there and decide, okay, are we going to leave this to the property owners and the business owners to care for? Or if we're concerned about the accumulation of snow maybe on those corners or wherever, then we have that conversation and say, okay, for the safety of the community, is this something that needs to be addressed? Or do we just assume that our business owners and property owners are going to take care of it? But I think we need one map And we need the color that the DPW is taking care of, and we need the color that is owned by the DDA. And then we sit down and say, this is the final and last discussion we're going to have on this. Because, like, these discussions keep evolving, and we still don't have an answer yet. And I still don't have one map that is being used by everybody. So if we could, I don't know, if we could expedite that, request a meeting, and they have to show up. They got to be there.
So, Madam Chair, the appropriate motion would be to defer this matter to a special meeting of the board
Yes.
and ask the director to work with the village to prepare joint materials of both location and responsibility.
And we'd
for-
like it done within 10 days.
Within 10 days. That would be an appropriate motion. If someone on your board were to make it, they could say so moved, and that's what the motion will say.
Second.
All in favor?
Discussion.
Oh,
Any public comments?
It's an open agenda item for new business, so public comment would be appropriate.
please. Just tell us your name, so for the record.
George Dandelides, 226 Bellevue. I'm going to apologize up front because nobody's going to like what I want to say. I think you're right, you need a map, but you need three colors: village-owned, DDA-owned, and non-public property.
Right.
We have an ordinance that says property owners are responsible to clear their sidewalks. In my mind, this is no different than if we have a resident who's got overgrown grass and weeds and such. We address that through an ordinance and an ordinance violation. If the homeowner doesn't take care of it, we go in and do it, the DPW will go in and do it, and then we charge them for it, and if they don't pay, it becomes part of their tax bill. So we end up getting the money to cover it. I see this as no different than that. I think that the trick bag that we get ourselves into, or that we have the potential of getting ourselves into, if we take that burden off of a homeowner or a business owner or whatever it is because they don't do it for whatever reason, I think we run the risk of using taxpayer dollars to do something that we are not financially, we as a village or a DDA, whatever you want to call it, we are not obligated to do. And I think that's a problem. So I think the way to handle this is get the map. I think agree on whether it's village or DDA responsibility, and I have a hard time getting wrapped up in that because I think we're all one big happy family, but regardless. We got DDA and we got village responsibility of ownership or responsibility for property, and then it's up to the homeowner. And I think we utilize our ordinance enforcement, we utilize our ordinances, and we approach it from that perspective. And if we have to have the DPW go in and do it on behalf of the property owner, then we back charge them for it. We pay the DPW to do it. We back charge if we have to go after in the tax bill. We do that. We have everything. We have all the mechanisms in place to do it. We just have to utilize those. And I really think we need to avoid getting in the trick bag of using taxpayer money to do things that are not our financial obligation.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
disagree in the sense that I actually love what you have to say, because I think that if we're fining people for having grass that's overgrown, and when this is a safety issue, like, we should absolutely be fining people, because somebody could get hurt, right? So I definitely agree with you, but I disagree that I would disagree. But I guess my concern is why hasn't it been done before? Like, why wouldn't we be fining businesses, or have we fined businesses in the past and homes in the past if they're not?
Just do it.
I don't know what's going on with the enforcement.
Okay.
I mean,
It may be on a complaint basis because our police department has historically worked on a complaint basis, that if somebody complains about it, they'll send an enforcement officer out there to, take care of it, check in on it, that kind of thing. And so that may be why there have been gaps in enforcement, because nobody said, hey, I want you to go out. I want you to go do that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Makes total sense.
I think whatever we do, I think what's going to be critical is communication. And I think it's going to have to go out to the public, and it's going to have to be in print, it's going to have to be on social media, it's going to have to be on Facebook, it's going to have to be in the newspapers, it's going to have to be everywhere, so that every property and business owner knows it is their responsibility, and that it's that whatever the DDA, whatever decision is made. But I think the key is we have to learn how to communicate. Letters sent, everything. Because if we don't, it's just,
The police department did just put up a post today or yesterday stating like, hey, this is the ordinance, you need to clear your sidewalks if it's, and everything, so.
Published.
Yeah, so I think it is communicated. I think because the DDA has gotten into this gray area of doing privately owned properties, then there's been this, well, not my responsibility, so I'm not going to do it. And if they're not doing it, well, oh well, it's not getting done. And I was just thinking, we talked about like, hey, we could hire somebody. If we hire a seasonal person and they need to go shovel someone's sidewalks, they get charged by the DDA for it even,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know if I can do it. Can I hire your seasonal, if we decide to go that route as a seasonal person, can I hire your seasonal person to do it? And they pay the hourly rate for the cost, because yes, I think we've been saying it, Sam, you've said it as well. We need to be clear on, these are public properties, these are private properties, and we shouldn't be in the business of doing all the private properties.
I don't think so at all.
So just as a closing point from the director's side, we spent a lot of time in our 2 training sessions focusing what is the TIF, what are our obligations to the TIF, what is our obligations under Public Act 57. Remember I showed you a slide that I admitted I stole from Ann Arbor? And remember their maintenance was not general maintenance, it was maintenance of their TIF-approved infrastructure of lighting and sidewalks and actual infrastructure. Us plowing every sidewalk in our district is not preserving our TIF PA 57 legal obligation to maintain our infrastructure deployment for the betterment of property value. Now, is there an ancillary benefit? 100% there is, but as Ms. Rudd has explained, it's a slippery slope. So just so you, and I'll say it, our village manager said he's gonna watch tonight if it's on, I don't know if it is. This is the new budget approach. We are breaking this down and having this discussion again because we are out of the business of, well, let's just make sure it happens and then some fictitious money flows somewhere. If this board decides that we're gonna spend $28,732 to do this, it's gonna be very defined exactly what we're doing. And just so you're aware, in February is the first round to be at this board of how we're approaching that budgetary cycle in this new pattern, right? So this is what's breaking that down. So 10 days, your motion, Madam Chair, will be adhered to. We'll reach out to Mr. Sanchez first thing in the morning, indicate that it's been requested. We can't compel him, but I'm sure our good president could give a strong nudge to say, Wes, hey, can you help out here? Let's get all the information on the table. It's likely we would call that meeting maybe quicker than 10 days, right, to get this decision done.
I think that's
Would
important.
you like other people to sit in with you?
Well, it'll be a special meeting here.
Special meeting,
So
okay.
I'll work with Wes to get the information gathered in more detail. And then there'll be a special meeting here. It'll be posted. The clerk will post the meeting. Ms. Bloom and I have already talked about that. Mr. Davis advised us on open meetings, the importance of making sure we follow open meetings for committees and for special meetings. So this will be one of those. And I think you already had a motion and an approval. Sounds like you had a vote.
I just need a vote.
Need a vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number B, request for proposals, design and architectural, page 61.
Madam Chair, this one is much quicker. We'll go through the lumberyard report as part of our reports. You had asked me not too long ago, how's the lumberyard? What's the next step? This is one of 3 next steps. This is one that's time sensitive because it's, we need to get construction drawings so that we can pull permitting to start restoring most surely the 3 structures that we are going after for historic preservation. The main office, all of you, thank you, have supported getting that buttoned up and Tyvek'd and it's dry. That building's kind of sitting there waiting for the next phase, as we need a redevelopment set of construction drawings. We don't need a consultant to do vision planning or hold charrettes. We're going to be very communicative and informative, that whatever this firm will be very interactive with all of you as well as the public. But we don't need to start from scratch and say, well, what do you think should be here? And next thing you know, it's October. We already have done all of those exercises. So we are asking that you approve my office to submit an RFP that would seek architectural services to have construction drawings done for the main barn, which would be a redesign into an event and market space, as we've all been talking about ad nauseum, including most significantly engineering drawings for a new roof, which is going to have to retruss a lot of that building. We're asking for architectural construction drawings for the canopy of the Trailhead building, which is the old supply house in the northeast corner. All of you are familiar with what we're trying to do there, and construction drawings for the office building. You might say, well, what about the rest of it? Whatever firm is brought back for recommendation to this board, that firm will be much like we've used TBD Construction Services for our salvage and initial pre-demo, much like we used, if you remember, K&D Phillips, our local contractor that did debris removal. We brought back to you and said, we have found another step of the process. We have a licensed, insured contractor that we've pre-approved. This is why we amended our procurement levels way back when. This service is intended to get the main bulk of our initial construction drawings, and then as we attack one of those little coal sheds, and it's another $6,200 charge to do a roof truss drawing for one of those, we would be back before you on a one-on-one basis. So this would be our chance to submit RFP to find our partnered architect for our work. This is not for the larger full site development. You will see that if we're going to call a special meeting over snowplow. It's very likely, Madam Chair, that I will slide in this very short 90-second explanation, and we would vote on that next step at that next meeting. This one is for an architect to do our work for those 3 main buildings, and that's what's before you.
Motion to approve request for proposals, LODDA 25-0001, design and architectural services for the lumber yard at Pink Creek as presented, and authorize the executive director to finalize all legal compliance, publish and coordinate registration, and that's right.
You're going to read the whole thing?
And opening with the village clerk on a day no later than February 12th, 2025.
You good?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, reports, resolutions, and recommendations. Assistant Director report.
Yes, so we are excited about what's coming up for our first launch since last year of our business and property owner roundtables that we were going to have downtown Lowdown, happening at 313 Pizza, and that will be from 4 to 5:30 this Thursday. And the police chief has offered to join us for that event. Again, each one we want to make sure that not only is an avenue to share information from our office, but also to have Q&A, but then also have a teachable moment and bring some resources and tools to the meeting, so people will have something tangible to walk away with. So we're excited about launching that. And then we'll stay at the same location, and then we have a volunteer party that we want to recognize all those folks who have helped make this downtown what it is, the gem that it is, and that's going to run from 6 to 9 p.m. at 313 Pizza as well. So we're excited about that. Excited to get our award winners as well, so we got some great surprises on that too. So going into our event schedule, so we've been working with the promotions committee, and we do have a draft of our 2025 events, so that will be coming out to you via email shortly. We have the Ice Fest coming up, and we're doing that, as we had stated at the last meeting, in conjunction with the Sunrise Rotary Ice Golf Cup Challenge, which will have ice sculptures, a live ice carving demo, warming stations, scavenger hunt with retailers with $350 in downtown dollars for prizes. We'll also have the Flint Street Alley activated, and we are working with our restaurants to do themed drinks and food features. So we're excited about that. Then shortly after that as well, so our restaurants we're reaching out to them again. So we have from February 21st through March 1st, the restaurant week. Again, paired together with Oxford for our Stronger Together, signing up restaurants now with that, and what we're looking to do with that restaurant week is an app, an entree, dessert style menu with one set price. So we are getting some traction on that and people getting back to us on that. As far as our social media stats, we added some more followers on our Facebook pages and also on our Instagram. As far as our reach, given that we had so many holiday events, we did get a bump. So we had back in October, November, with our fall events, we had estimated to reach about 85,000. Took a bit of a dip for November of 49,000, and now we're back up to 83,000 on that reach. Engagement previous was about 9,600. Our engagement right now is about 17,000. So for our other items, we had a meeting today, and we're going to be working with Thrive and Oxford DDA on joint training sessions. So we're kind of looking at the partnership that we have with Oxford DDA, and we are right-sizing the events that we have with them. So we don't need to constantly be having a Stronger Together event, but we want to say that we want to have an activity with them and with their downtown businesses in that we use resources jointly. So whether it's Main Street, Oakland County, or with Thrive, with that program from the county, or other training resources that come up. So we met today, and we're going to be getting a date on the calendar for February, and actually it's going to be working with Brian Burney as far as marketing. And so we're looking to get that on the books. So we'll be reaching out to our businesses to find out what's a good time that we can kind of get a core group of folks. And then we'll do it as a digital training session. And it sounds like what we're going to try to do is once a quarter that we would do that type of training. So we had, and I know Matt mentioned this a little bit before, so we did have our December 19th, the first day of our board and committee retreat. And then on January 19th was day 2 for our board and committee retreat. And again, day 1 was mostly focused on the TIF and board and committee training. And then certainly with bringing in POW strategies with our day 2 to do a facilitated session, reviewing our vision and our mission and our strategic planning for the year for 2025. I know a report will be provided by her, and so we'll be working with the board to get you that information. As far as our committee meetings, we had a few that we didn't do during the month of December. Again, we do have calendars set, and as we talked about, the information from Bob Davis is that with the Open Meetings Act, that we want to make sure that even our committee meetings are also posted. So we have the dates all set for that, and we'll be making sure that that also gets posted for all of our committees as well, and we'll have that on our website too. So just real brief as far as the committee meetings, December was canceled for the org committee. Promotions committee, we had January 7th. And design committee, that was canceled, but we did hold 2 design meetings for the facade grants in December. And economic vitality, that December meeting was canceled as well. So again, you'll see that on our website once we get those posted, I say probably tomorrow. So we have a lot of great things that are coming up, and again, we'll be getting that information out to you. I can send you the calendar out tomorrow, and then we'll have that posted on our website as well. Yes.
So Janet, has there been any more collaboration with Oxford in regard to having a new slogan instead of Stronger Together? Because I know I've talked to a few of the council members, and actually with some of the folks from the high school too. So has there been any movement on that?
We've had conversation probably since spring of last year, to be honest, as far as what that needs to turn into. And I can say that we have not come to a new term, but I will bring that back up at our next meeting. We do meet weekly, so I'll bring that up at our next Wednesday meeting.
Okay, that'd be great, thank you.
Yes.
Joint town lowdown.
I'm sorry?
Joint town lowdown.
With all the marijuana facilities.
That's perfect. I didn't mean it that way, but it probably fits, it's probably a great fit.
That sounds like a buzz crawl.
So in conjunction, just one last comment here. So in working with Emily in our office, so we are working on some of the housekeeping features, right? So working on updating our media list. We're working with 20 Front Street and also with Orion Art Center as far as pulling out our resources together and being able to share those resources out and share that information. So that's something, just another item that we're working on as far as housekeeping and working on getting information out to the community.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before you just do a quick motion for receive and file, Janet's done a phenomenal job on February 6th. I don't know why you didn't include this, but she's really taken to champion the idea of there's too many isolated silos of what's happening throughout the community. So she's championed and has taken charge of calling together an initial meeting of key stakeholders within the community, library, parks, and others. Scheduled a meeting with the Orion Events folks that run Wildwood Pavilion, which is near and dear to my heart, but they kind of run roughshod over the schedule in this town. And so on February 6th, she's going to be having a meeting. I'm super, super pleased that she's doing this because it's a significant gap in our community that everybody's trying to run all these independent schedules and events, and all of a sudden, everybody's standing there and there's 6 people at their event and they're like, what happened? Well, because Wildwood's got a concert and Lake Orion DDA has this, and nobody actually talked, and so kudos to that. So add that to the report.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's fabulous.
Well, I have to do some clarification.
No,
of that.
take credit. Take credit.
So there's been many conversations at many different meetings, at the Dragon Community Group, other meetings that we have, and individual one-on-one meetings. And so that's been kind of the thread as far as we just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I must have had really great thoughts going out and the previous conversations with these folks. But the library was the one with the Township Parks and Rec. But we got all these folks together. I've been adding a few folks to the mix as well. So I think, again, everybody's in the same mode of just trying to make sure everybody's events are successful, or, being able to add to each other's success. If it's something that falls in the same day, how can we cooperate together in that? But thank you, though.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Because we want everybody to be successful and we want to support one another, and that creates a beautiful opportunity to do that without maybe scheduling something on top of what somebody else has already scheduled, right? So kudos to you. Great job. Thank you.
If there's no other questions to receive and file, then
Motion to receive and file the Assistant Director's report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to committee reports.
She did.
Oh, she did them.
Motion to receive and file the committee reports.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on now to C, Lumberyard Progress Report, page 79.
Madam Chair, on page 70 of the packet, I note that just for the public's benefit as well. We're going to have a new thing starting this year, and going forward, every month, there's going to be a progress report in this form. It'll also go on the website. So it's already in the Lumberyard page. You can go there, you can click on, you can pull up this report. The idea is, as we document the project, and I take a lot of pictures, they're in a place where it also explains what the heck's going on. So this is twofold. One is to inform you. 2 is to inform the public, and maybe most
And
significantly.
GAMSA, we need this for GAMSA.
Yeah, we go after bigger things. So just very briefly, as an update, I think most of you are aware, we did get the asbestos removed. Our hazardous materials report identified asbestos. That's all gone. We have a manifest for that. TBD Construction's done a great job. You approved in your consent agenda the final little extras that we had to add for just safety purposes. When they did the material removal from the siding, the canopy became unstable. So we made the field decision, you need to tear it down. That was a cost, so thank you for approving that on consent agenda. They're kind of in hold pattern right now. They've asked if they can leave their truck out front. I don't mind that. It creates a little bit of a security image that there's still construction activity going on. You may have noticed that the wind blows that temporary fencing down. We've had a windy winter. We're going to try to attack that, but not when it's 0 degrees and 5 degrees. So sorry, it's going to look like that for a few more days until it warms up a little bit. So the asbestos is all removed and our manifests are done. Those are into the state. Likewise, EGL, who's our hazardous waste removal of paint and stain and varnish. I started to count. I went over 800 different cans, and then I quit counting. Remember some of you volunteers, I know Mr. Sill and others came and carried cans. That's what we were told to do by that company, and then they came and said, we can't accept it this way. So we asked, well, how would you accept it? And we prepared it that way, and then they came and said, we can't accept it this way, and then I got very angry. But that didn't work. So we eventually, as you see in the pictures in the report, we moved it onto pallets that, lo and behold, we had lots of pallets in the lumberyard. So we prepared most of that, but they did come and remove all of that. So from an environmental standpoint, all of our asbestos is gone on our hazardous material report. All of the waste, including all of the acids that were still there, all of the stains, all of the concrete sealers is all gone. We don't have anything. If someone were to go and dig through there, God love you, you can't find it. The salvage of materials happened, and then the change orders as we've described. Demolition, which is the next step of our first phase. If it wasn't 0 degrees today, it might have started today. We're going to have to just wait on some weather for the company that's doing that. They're going to be removing what they call shed walls, which are little raised concrete walls. They're not foundational things, so we're not digging out a bunch of soil. But it is frozen as solid can be right now. Not that it's going to thaw out right away. They've submitted the 10-day notice to Eagle. We have our soil erosion permitting applied for at the county through PEA, our engineering firm that did all the survey work. That's kind of just sitting there waiting. And Peterson Brothers, who's our contractor from Roseville that we've already approved and under contract, they're waiting for the window, so to speak. My guess is it'll be next Monday or Tuesday. Demolition will take probably 5 days at the most. All of the debris that you see in the public see, except for our structures that we're saving, is all going to be gone. So if everything works well, by the time we hit February 1st, and I was going to announce, as soon as the Lions win the Super Bowl, we'll have a clean site, but there's always next year. And so you'll see demo. So that's the report for this. You'll see it every month in a similar form. Next month will be the outcome of a reporting of our RFP process for architectural services and the results of the demo with more photos that we'll post on the site. In March, you'll see the public approach to go to the Planning Commission and our concept planning. And then the last update is thanks to Jim Cummins, who's our local friend and architect, who's been on council and Planning Commission and a lot of things. Jim took advantage of our offered partnership. If you want old stuff out of the lumberyard last summer, he took some stuff and he bartered and said, instead of me making a donation, could I offer my architectural service on pre-design drawings for our site layout? And Jim has been working very diligently on that. I couldn't be more pleased. We are maybe taking advantage of his good kindness because he only took one trailer load of old warped lumber, but he's already given us thousands and thousands of dollars of insight in architectural. So you'll see these reports monthly, and I can answer any questions as to where we're at in the process.
Motion to receive and file the lumberyard progress report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number D, Executive Director's Report.
Madam Chair, just, quickly, you all got a sense of what we're working on, as you always do through these meetings, from the Executive Director's Report. Just update because I feel I have to. We had our meeting today via Zoom with the village manager. The village hall is closed, and they close when the schools close. So the schools are closed, so the village hall is closed. But we did still have a Zoom meeting, a brief one with the village manager. You'll recall that there was a motion made at council level to seek a report and recommendation from the village manager regarding the dissolution of this good board into the planning commission of the village. To Ms. Bloom and I, we expressed today again, it's a non-starter. It shouldn't take any consideration at all to say that that's not going to happen in this community. We're making such great strides with this great leadership that's with us. That being said, I do have to advise that the village manager is intending to bring it to the council meeting on Monday, that there would be a joint committee formed to explore the pros and cons of dissolving this board into the planning commission. I submitted a nearly 5-page detailed memo. I'm sure my good attorney colleague, Mr. Shell, looked at it. I know some of you read it. We don't have any pros of doing that. We only have cons. It's been identified very articulate. It started with this unbelievable articulation of the cons by our council president of why that's not applicable. I just bring it to your attention. It is part of the work of the executive director, but we could have maybe had better mapping on our snow plowing stuff tonight if we weren't continually dealing with that. So it's still there. It's not being swept away like it should. We've responded. I have no idea what the council will be presented with on Monday night. Likewise, it is prepared for our budget process in February that we would bring forth a contract to this board and then to the village council on how the village could apply the use of 75% of future tax revenues that we use for investment in this community. Notice how I've learned from our board workshops too, that the way we speak about what we do. We take prosperity from this community and reinvestment. We've offered, and our village partners have mutually accepted that we would take 75% of that prosperity so that we could use it for specific capital projects. It was told today that that likewise will be on the village council agenda for Monday night. I have no idea what form that would take. It's all, our version of it is sitting in the laptop that was going to be presented, but the village hall is closed. So your director is working on those types of things. They're laborious, not in the sense of they're hard to do, but we are unraveling, as Madam Chair, you said, just on snow plowing alone, we have 10, 15 years of how did we get to here. We're unraveling how we got to there. So what the intention is on this whole board disruption, it's our hope, Madam President, that we're getting less and less polite about this issue. These types of issues, from your director's standpoint, we are one positive, one Orion, one community, but we're getting less and less polite. Somebody has to take the reins of those types of things are just no longer appropriate in our community. And on the whole budgetary approach and the approach for the 75-25, we are taking exactly what this board discussed in our board trainings and our workshop, that it is in the best interest of everybody to allow this good president to work with her council, to work with us to make mutual decisions on how we reinvest the prosperity of this community into the betterment of this community. That's what's in my laptop that was intended to be pre-presented to staff before it got anywhere, but apparently it's coming to your council. So we're ready for it. I'm just hopeful and optimistic that it doesn't continue down the path of we need to debate or wait or no decision or let's form a committee or wait until someone tells me what to do. It's becoming very, very, very burdensome in the work that we're doing. So that's my report for tonight. The rest of it's in the file.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I have a question. I was here at the council meeting when our council president did an incredible job of explaining what it was all about. And then I listened to the vote, and the vote voted it down, and it's still an issue?
Well, the vote was then to direct the manager and the executive director to have a conversation and bring back a recommendation to the council on the planning commission DDA board subject.
But that got voted down, did it not?
No, that passed.
That passed.
So, Madam Chair, so
Thank you.
I feel awkward continually bringing this stuff up. My apologies to you, Madam President, but today was yet another, really, we're still taking the time for this. And so there was directed, the village manager and I did have a conversation. He did seek a supporting memo from me, which was provided in December, was again provided about almost 2 weeks ago now. The recommendation back to council should be there's no appreciable benefit for any of this, and the village manager's return report should be that the matter should be passed and move on. But apparently it's going to be brought back as we need to form a committee to jointly come up with pros and cons for the concept. And I think that's the most ludicrous waste of time I've ever heard of. And I'm hoping that, and I know your position, Madam Chair, on this board is we're not going to engage. He said today that he would seek to engage a consultant to help facilitate such a thing. And we're not spending
Not one penny.
one
No.
penny or ounce of time on any of that effort. And so it's disappointing to me. I know this will wrinkle the positive growth. I know, Janet, you're like, Matt, would you just shut up and let's fix this? But man, one step forward and 15 back sometimes. But the rest of the report, Madam Chair, is things are great, man. I couldn't have been more pleased with our board work in our 2 sessions. I couldn't have been more pleased with these 2 council people being there. I think everything else is great. And some of the ancillary work that is moving forward, Janet has started the year gangbusters. Emily, now that she's getting into a regular schedule, is falling into a good routine now. I can kind of see it. It's going to take some time. She's a work in progress, but she's good and she's very well intentioned and wants to be there, which is a rare thing for a young person to want to be somewhere.
Cool.
So all of that's going really positively. There's an approach with the lumberyard that through Ms. Rutt's referral and recommendation, we're working with a potential bike shop user. I'm working with a potential bakery. There's 4 other users that we've been able to really start to get traction on that. There is a plan that I'm working on when not, dealing with Planning Commission should take this over. That would be more of a targeted marketing plan on how we attract a better diversification of business, but not from a wish and hope and does my neighbor have something that could go here, from an actual approach of how economic developers attract businesses into a diverse economy. It's just getting to, I seem agitated and I wasn't at 2 o'clock. And then we had a meeting and now I'm agitated. So, but that's my report. I'm sorry to go on so long, but that's it.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I just ask a question? Teresa, maybe you can help me. What, as far as the village is concerned, what would the true benefit be?
I can only speak for what I have heard, because my position is to remain a separate Planning Commission and DDA, and that is a position I've had since that discussion was brought up, and that is what I have maintained and will continue to maintain. But some of the arguments on the other side are, and again, I don't know that I don't entirely agree with them, but some of them include the fact that there are some who believe that it would include more community representation because there would be 2 elected officials on a combined Planning Commission DDA, where currently there's only 1 on the DDA board. The thought was, one of the arguments that were made were because, it requires fewer volunteers. So if people can't, make it, in my opinion, we don't have trouble filling board positions. We have 1 Planning Commission position open currently, but generally speaking, we're not a community that struggles to get people to step up and volunteer for board positions. Another argument, I think, was made towards, since it's combined into 1, there could be more unity or momentum on something because it's not 2 separate things working together. And I think the final thing is it consolidates more control under kind of the village umbrella.
Ding, 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 ding. Let's just call it out for what it
Yeah.
is. Okay, thank you. On to board comments and training feedback.
I just wanted to say I'm really excited about the ice cup challenge, ice golf challenge. We've hosted the whole for the last 3 years. But really, it's just because of what Janet was doing. So I agree with you, Matt, that it doesn't matter how many people have a suggestion. Janet actually makes it happen, right? So the fact that she's all these different silos. We have all these different events downtown. And yes, it's amazing when we have the ice sculptures and people sometimes come down to see it, but there are so many people that come downtown for that ice cup challenge that they're going to be able to enjoy this. Hopefully it's not going to be 60 degrees this year. There will be actual ice. But they'll be able to enjoy it while they're doing that. So definitely see the work that you're doing and that you're taking this feedback and actually making it happen. It sounds like even beyond that with like working with the library as well. So thank you so much, Janet.
After Matt's conversation, I'm just kind of steaming.
Ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I'm also frustrated, but that's not a secret. And repeat of what I say every time, but Matt and Janet, you're doing an awesome job, so thank you. We definitely notice it.
Yeah, definitely, and thanks, Matt and Jeff, for doing a great job, and, you know, stepping in when you should have to step in, like salting and plowing and doing these things, it's ridiculous, but we had 2 great board training sessions. It made me feel more understanding of the TIF, our TIF, and what we're responsible for as stewards of the money, and I think it was good having some of the council members there to show their support, and it was really a really good overall way to get together and make us a better team, so I appreciate that. Yeah, but hopefully this non-issue of the non-issue that we're talking about is just a non-issue, and it's going to go away because it's just a waste of time, effort, money, and frustration.
I want to echo about the board retreat as well. I thought it was absolutely excellent. I learned a lot of great, valuable information. Want to thank George and Teresa for taking the time to be there. I think that was really important for us and for you guys, and just very excited that you are committed enough to the community and the DDA to make the time to be there and understand, along with us, what our duties are with regards to the TIF and PA 57. I also wanted to say I'm super excited about joint trainings with the Oxford DDA. I think that's an excellent idea. There's no reason why we can't partner with them on some of these business trainings with Thrive and Oakland County Main Street, et cetera, whatever. It's just going to benefit both communities, and it makes complete sense to do those trainings together. And I'm excited that the Bernie Directive will be involved again in helping with some of the marketing. I think they're very obviously involved in our community and very knowledgeable about our community, and so I think that's a real win to have them helping us with that. So I am frustrated as well about some other things too. But we are moving forward and doing great things.
Yeah, echoing the comments about the 2 days, the 2 retreat days, they were really helpful, really good. And so thank you for putting those on and putting the work to make those happen, because I think they were really helpful for all of us. And I appreciate the lumberyard reports. I think that's going to be appreciated in the community as well, so they can see and track the progress, what's going on, what's coming up. I think that's just going to be really helpful for everybody to be able to track those. So thank you for putting that together, and that will be a regular thing, and excited just to continue to see movement on the project. Because I know that's been also a desire in the community. It's like, hey, what's next? What's next? When are we going to see movement? So we're seeing that. This is a minor thing, and maybe I should have brought it under the director's report about the Eamon Center, and maybe it's a conversation for another time. It's my understanding that for the Eamon Center, we don't have some final documents to be signed. And so if there's something I can do to, or questions I need to ask to help move that forward, yeah, not sure where that breakdown is there. But yeah, I think we're all excited to see that project move forward. So would love to know kind of where that breakdown is. And that doesn't have to be right now, but a conversation. Because yeah, from my understanding on the village side, we've been, at least on the council aspect, we've been kind of waiting and wanting to move that project forward as well. And outside of that, everybody stay warm. It's cold. It's going to be cold for another couple days. But yeah, looking forward to kind of what's next.
I just want to say kudos to our executive and assistant executive directors. I think the training sessions were fabulous. I love Christina from POW Strategies. She helped us navigate that whole thing, that, situation we were with when Molly left, so I was very grateful. And she has made excellent recommendations because we have this beautiful young woman right here who was a part of that, so we're grateful for that. And she was very supportive of us thinking outside of the box when we were making decisions on what skill sets we needed to move forward. And I just would like to say that, Matt, yay, you were right on, because we never knew that we were going to need an attorney in addition to an executive director to weed through all of this baloney that has been taking place month after month. It's absolutely ridiculous. And yes, I am very disappointed. I'd like to say I also really appreciate having Bob Davis there for question and answers. I think having a attorney that the village actually acknowledges to ask questions and answers, that was really important on how that TIF money could be spent, who was responsible for that, how that money would be allocated, and how it would be discharged. I think that was very, very important information. I'm super excited about the fact that we're going to be honoring our volunteers, because we could not do what we do without our volunteers. So that's going to be a great evening to celebrate those folks who love this community just as much as we do. Matt, our executive director. Anybody that
Excuse
could
my dog died. That's
put
okay.
up with all of this stuff, I just want you to know, we are so grateful for you. We are so grateful for Janet. I really, really appreciate the fact that you guys are the dynamic duos, that you work together. I am believing that somehow we're going to get past all this, and we're going to see great things happen in our community. I believe this lumberyard is going to be a tremendous opportunity to extend our district, if you would, to have some real anchor businesses towards that end. Super excited about all of that. But know that this board greatly appreciates the work that you two do. I am so sorry that it's, one week it's great movement, the next week it's like somebody's hit you in the jugular. I'm so sorry about all that. I never in a million years would have ever expected this to take place, but stay strong, because we really appreciate you guys. You're doing great work here, great work. And I think the fact that there's so many other communities that are watching Lake Orion very, very closely. They're watching our council very, very closely. And so I just want to say to you, great job, great job, great job. We really appreciate you. And if there's anything I think that any of us on the board here could do for you guys, please articulate that, because we want you to know that we support you. And however you may need that, we want to be available to do that. So we really appreciate you. Our next regular meeting, I'm sorry it's not printed on here, so what is?
February 18th.
February 18th at 6:30 PM. And could I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.